My weight gain initially, I did gain a small, it's not a ton, but it was definitely like a good amount of weight when I, unbeknownst to myself, started healing from an eating disorder. I didn't even know that I had one at the time. I just thought I had disordered eating. And then when I actually spoke with the specialist, she's like, actually, you had an eating disorder. And I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of things in my life make sense. And even to this day, there's things on a regular basis that I'm like, oh, that's not normal. Oh, that actually makes sense too. It just sort of clicked in my mind. But I gained a small amount of weight that I don't even really know was that noticeable to a lot of people. But to me, it was in 2020. And then right around the time I was, thank God, thank the Lord that I actually started healing my relationship with food before I got pregnant. Because that would have hit me like a ton of bricks, even worse than I even did, because it was still hard. But I started healing from my eating disorder without a specialist at the time, but I think I did a pretty good job kind of starting on my own in July of 2020 when I had mono. And then I kind of was on that journey for 6 months, just trying to heal my relationship with food and not feel so afraid of food. And then which was great leeway into in January getting pregnant and then gaining a lot more weight with my twins. And then, and then after having the twins, not really losing that much of the weight. Like I immediately lost like a good amount of it from the birth. And then after that, I was just kind of around the same. And then at this point, I'm just kind of not actively pursuing weight loss because it's just really not healthy for my mental place, but just pursuing like health. For me, I gained weight well before I got pregnant with the twins. And I remember stepping on the scale the first time and I cried. I was like, because I had truly been, I think it had been about 4 or 5 months at that point, and I was just eating when I was hungry and what I wanted. There was literally no restrictions on my food for the first time in a decade. I was eating when I was hungry. I was stopping when I was full. I was eating foods that I liked. I was like, I want some chocolate. Ooh, that sounds good. Ooh, goldfish crackers. I took all the labels off of food in my mind of like bad, unhealthy, junk, toxic, inflammation, whatever, all the orthorexia things. And I was just like enjoying food, and I felt really good. I was sleeping better. My nails grew longer. My period was better. All these things were better. But I gained, it wasn't a ton, but it was a good amount of weight. And I stepped on the scale and I just cried and cried. This shame just washed over me. And I remember sitting down and it was like, Max had already gone to bed. It was kind of late at night. And I was crying and crying. And I got out my journal and I was like, I'm going to write this down because I'm going to want to remember this. And I remember this thought that came to me, which was like, and I've heard people say this in sort of the recovery community, that's just like, remember why you started. If you are on a journey of healing your body image and your relationship with food, it's a long, hard journey. You have to have a really strong reason why. My why is I am never going back to being that obsessive about food. That was such a freaking nightmare to live in a mental prison for that long. I'm never going back there. When I see those pictures of that girl with that very thin body, I think of what I had to do to maintain that. That was a freaking hell, honestly, like a mental hell when I really think about it. And I'm not in mental hell anymore. Like, that's really cool. And if you are in a body where you're just like, I don't like my body. I feel bigger than I should be. I just don't like this. I feel uncomfortable. It's like this uncomfortable, like almost like you're like, get it off. Like that. I know that feeling. It's so horrible. And it's like
I'm not supposed to be this.
Right. And it's like, I just encourage you, like, if you feel that way about your body, just this like hatred, you got to find a way to get out of that and like just get to a place of just like, not even that you're happy, but you're just okay. I lived a lot of my life in a very thin body that was like, I actually looked back at the BMI of it and I was like, I was basically right above underweight, just right above it. And I was aware of that. I didn't want to go higher. It was like, I wanted to be there. And then now I'm like on the other side of that, and I'm in a very different body now than I was for many years. And the thing that's really interesting is like, I did this last night. I was looking at old pictures of myself and just reflecting, oh, I remember that memory. And it was just, I was looking back at old memories. And I just kept thinking about how I took all these pictures of myself because I wanted to capture a moment of like, oh, I think I look good right now. Let me take a picture. And it was just this like desperation of, I was so ravenously hungry for acceptance and for attention. And even though I was in this very thin body that you're supposed to be super happy and really comfortable with yourself and just living your best life, it's like I was extremely mentally unhealthy and unhappy. And that's a thing that a lot of people want to get to. And I had that in my body. I got a lot of praise and affirmation for my body from outside sources and other people telling me that I looked good or that outfits looked good. And you kind of don't hear a lot of that when you get to the other side of it. It's like you don't really get a lot of compliments in your body or how you look when you're in a larger body. It just kind of changes. I know that because I've been on both sides. But did that make me happy? Did that actually did it fulfill me? Was I actually just, I don't know, in a good place? And the answer is absolutely not. I wasn't in a good place. I think that's been a big realization for me is kind of like you're saying, it's like thinness does not mean happiness.
Not
And,
at all.
and a lot of times
gosh.
once you get to the thin place, all you're worrying about is maintaining it. And then you become obsessed about food and exercise. And it's like every moment you're like, well, I don't want to gain weight because I don't want to go back to how I was. And then you're just in this loop. And it's like, it's really hard to if you have such a conditional love for yourself, you're always going to be afraid of losing it. You have to learn, if you want to really be happy with yourself, to unconditionally love yourself no matter what you look like or what you weigh in that moment, because it's not a problem with your weight. It's a problem with you loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the core of it. There's two main schools of thought, I feel like, with people who are trying to heal their body image. And it's like body positivity, body neutrality. I don't think there's necessarily one is better than the other. I think you should do what works for you if you're going in that direction. But I know for me, I'm kind of trying to get to a place of neutrality where it's like you just don't, your body isn't an obsession. It's not something you think about all the time. Just like I got to that place with food, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't feel so afraid of food now. And that's obviously a huge part of weight in your body. And it's just like eating and not worrying about it as much. Yes, I still worry sometimes a little bit, but it's like just having this peace about it and this calm. That's the place that I'm trying to get to with my body, where it's like looking back at those pictures, it's like, I don't really want to necessarily remember how insecure I felt or how the first moment I saw the picture, I was like, do I have a double chin or does my arm look big in that angle? Like, that's how I used to look at pictures when I was younger. And I just want to be like, oh, I remember that day at the beach. That was so cool. This thing happened. Like, that's what I want to remember. It's like humanizing yourself. You're not just an object.